As we mentioned in our review of the Realme XT, we're going to be taking a look at his cameras in detail and also comparing it to the Vivo Z1x, which is one of his competitors in this segment. Now, both these smartphones have high megapixel count on their primary cameras and also offer similar versatility when it comes to the other cameras on board as well. This is Sandeep, this is XDA TV. Let's get started. You get a quad camera system on the Realme XT, which consists of a primary 64 megapixel Samsung GW1 sensor with 1x1.72 inch sensor size, f1.8 aperture, 0.8 micron pixel size, a secondary ultra wide 8 megapixel f2.2 camera, as well as a 2 megapixel macro camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. Vivo Z1x features a triple camera system, and what's missing is the macro camera. You still get a 48 megapixel primary f1.8 camera, as well as an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle f2.2 camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. In terms of photos, the XT has slightly better sharpness, but it comes at the cost of slightly more noise compared to the Z1x photos. Although Realme itself is known to have more saturated photos than usual, you'll notice that Z1x trumps even the XT in terms of saturation. Well, to be fair, the XT did get some reduction in saturation compared to a Realme 5 Pro that came just last month, so changes made are quite recent. The Z1 photos are also with higher contrast. In terms of dynamic range, the Z1X is a bit better as it manages to preserve details and colors in the highlights, but in some scenarios it went the other way. Take these two photos as an example. The Z1X has much better color and exposure on the leaves, while the XT has better color on the sky. It's just the way that these two phones meter the exposure differently that causes this change, it seems like. The Z1X is quicker to focus and also able to focus up closer than the XT. Take this image for instance, the Z1X could capture it while the XT wasn't able to focus at all, even when I tried manually focusing using the Pro mode. That's where the macro camera of the XT comes in handy. It allows you to focus closer than the primary camera would be able to, but the quality is quite poor, which is why I'd choose the Z1X over the XT for close-ups. By default, both the phones capture pixel bin photos, which result in a lower resolution of 16 megapixel on the XT and 12 megapixel on the Z1X, but with the same 1.6 micron pixel size. However, you can capture in full 64 megapixel and 48 megapixel resolution as well if you want, and the size of the photos increase by 2.5 to 3 times when doing so. In both the phones, shooting at the maximum resolution will result in higher noise levels than the pixel bin images, but on the XT you surprisingly get some extra sharpness at least. Theoretically speaking, the pixel bin images should be sharper, but perhaps the processing doesn't let it fully achieve that. In terms of low-light photos, both the phones perform pretty well, especially considering how much they cost. The XT photos have better sharpness and detail, but the Z1X particularly does well in terms of the shadows, where it's able to retain more information than the XT. You can see in these photos that the XT shadows are near pitch black in certain areas, while you can make out the patterns on the Z1X shots. In terms of color tones too, the Z1X is more accurate, and while the XT has a cooler and less natural look. Although noise is kept fairly in check, it's best to use these phones with the night modes, which is also known as nightscape mode on the XT. Here the XT gains much needed information from the shadows, but the Z1X on the other hand gets worse. Nonetheless, the noise is a bit lesser, and it seems like the sharpness is better due to some clarity being added, but the sharpness remains practically the same if not worse. In terms of portrait mode, it's quite polarizing as the XT does better when it comes to sharpness on the portion in focus, but its edge detection is worse than the Z1X. That's not to say that the Z1X is great. In fact, it too gets stuff wrong, such as my ear in this photo, but the amount of stuff it gets wrong is less, and what it gets wrong is less frequent as well, but the XT is still what I choose due to the huge difference in sharpness. The ultra-wide angle cameras on both the phones are great when it comes to offering a dramatic perspective, but in terms of the quality, they do reduce compared to the primary camera. You get a 16 megapixel f2 camera on the Realme XT, while the Z1X has a 32 megapixel f2 camera. Despite what the specifications might suggest, the XT is actually better in terms of detailing, with better dynamic range as well, and even a better portrait mode. The Z1X photos aren't very impressive, and for some reason when there is harsh light coming from the background, it also gets some flaring or misting issue. We thought this could be attributed to a smudged or dirty lens, but cleaning it also resulted in the same results. Video recording on both the phones have very similar characteristics, and they both have 4K 30fps video without EIS and 1080p 30fps with EIS, and while 1080p 30 results in some good smooth footage, 4K is shaky, but more importantly it is quite saturated compared to a regular mode on both the phones. Now here is where things get interesting. The XT allows 60fps video recording without EIS at 1080p, while the Z1X doesn't. But the Z1X offers you 1080p 30fps non-EIS video with the ultra-wide angle camera, while you can't record videos at all with the ultra-wide angle camera on the XT. In terms of racking focus too, the Z1X is much faster while the XT takes more time and sometimes even has to hunt for focus. The front-facing camera on the other hand is better on the XT thanks to superior audio as well as EIS on the video. It's hard to pick a winner between these two phones. What seemed like a single-sided battle on paper has turned out to be quite a head-scratcher. The XT impresses with its higher level of sharpness and detail as well as better portrait mode and good quality selfies and front-facing video, while Z1X has great dynamic range, better low-light color accuracy, ultra-wide-angle camera video, and faster focusing for both photo and video. Now granted, both these phones are very similar and both are good, so getting either won't really upset you, but which one to get purely depends on which one provides more positives for the scenarios that you're shooting for. So that was the camera comparison between the Vivo Z1X and the Realme XT. Let me know what you guys think about both these camera phones and which one is the winner to you and which one you would choose personally if you had to make a choice between the two. That's it for this video, guys. You can check out my channel as well for more content around the Vivo Z1X and the Realme XT. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.